Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Yeah.
You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show till Mets do us part. John from Brooklyn, Gibby reps NJ. With the other team, I don't care what your friends say. Mets fans, we focus like a sensei. Listen to the podcast Monday, Wednesday. Made a couple bad plays, but we still won. Character, yup, we're gonna build some. Are you gonna check the pod? Is real fun. Just like Mookie, I will, son. So invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show.
Available now on all streaming platforms. If you love the New York Mets, check out Till Mets Do Us Part. Enough rapping. Let's get to yapping.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Till Mets Do Us Part, where we are live on YouTube, live on Twitter, live on Substack, like we are each and every single week, Wednesdays at 5:30. Let's call it 5:30, just to be 5:40. I don't know, 5:38. Whatever. It doesn't matter to me, but I know it matters to a lot of folks in the comments, like Brad, who says, I look forward to Wednesdays at 5:30-ish. Thank you. 5:30-ish. John Saponaro from out in North Hollywood, California. And that means my co-host, Matt Ibanez, who I hate to throw you into the bus, Ibby, but you were the reason why we were late today. Not me. No, graphics Joker. I was not stuck in traffic.
Nope.
I was not. It was not me. It was not me. It was Ibby. He's holding it down back in New Jersey. It's all good. We have a lot to get to. A couple minutes late. Before we do that, though, Ibby, how you feeling?
John, I'm feeling pretty good. Wednesday, 5:30. You know, I'm excited to be talking ball with you and, of course, the rest of the chat and some returning faces that haven't been here in a minute, which we'll shout out in a moment. But all things considered, I'm doing well. There's a lot to talk about with this team, even though nothing has gone on. Yet again, it's going to be a show about hypotheticals and rumor and what if and this and that. But still, there's a lot to cover, different perspectives. These new rumors are kind of juicy in a sense. I heard one prior to even coming on today that I thought was interesting from a private Discord that I'm going to, let people know about. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it's still interesting enough that can spawn some good conversation. So as always, red lights on. Let's have some fun.
Let's get into the conversation. A couple shout outs here in the chat. First, of course, we got to do it. We have Mike Laverty. We have Lazy Mary, Truman Quinn, Ethan KL. Shout out Mike Laverty, by the way, who was saying over under. We start the show 5 minutes late. If you took the over, congratulations. Like Armand did, you win. What do you win? I don't know. Nothing really, but congratulations. Good for you. Who else? Who else is here in the comments? I already mentioned Brad. We have Gab, former guest on the show. Gab saying, I want 2-2 for Juan Soto. Fuck Ohtani Day. We can talk about that later, I guess. Graphics Joker, I mentioned. No, I am not stuck in traffic. Who else is here? A lot of familiar faces, usually to start the show. Jeff Cohen, Paul Revere. I don't see the horse yet, but Paul Revere's in the house. Dan,
not here. No midnight.
Dan the Man, Carlos Ortiz, Joe DeMeo, Chrissy, hi John, Ibby, and Beardless John. Yes, I shaved off my beard, not for any reason, just but Ibby, if you want, Graphics Joker saying Ibby needs a beard now. You got to balance the force. I don't know if you want to do it.
I wish I could. I just said in the comments I can't grow one, and mine's not cool and darker. It's orangey and it looks terrible, so I can't do it. I'm sorry. I wish I could.
Orangey.
Yeah, I'm one of those, like the reddish orangey type. That's me.
Okay, fair enough. We have Edward Wall. We have Radiant. Who else? Black Cat, 4115. Twist Your Dreams and Non-Generian. Okay, so
Black Cat. That's a fun one with the way this offseason is going for a lot of Mets fans. Black Cat's it's a fitting one to have in the chat. So welcome.
It is a very fitting one. I think a new subscriber or a new commenter.
Welcome.
Certainly.
Welcome
Welcome to the show. Lot of great comments before we get into the conversation in earnest. Shout out Lazy Mary saying, John, I have my whiskey recommendation of the week. Smuggler's Notch Distillery Maple Bourbon Whiskey, but it might be hard to find in California. It's distilled in Vermont. That sounds really good. I will try. I have not been like liquor shopping in a while, so keep the recommendations coming. I'm trying to keep a list because I will definitely check out the ones that I can check out. Lazy Mary also saying shaved and sleeveless. Oh my god, graphics Joker. John lost some hair. Paul Rivera saying no beard, how handsome. Thank you, appreciate that. And Joe DeMeo did ask where my sleeves went. I don't know, it's finally warm again here in California, so I decided that I would go sleeveless today. Plus I'm in the comfort of my own home, so nobody can tell me how to live my life. Anyway, Ibby, there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about. Again, though, it is just rumor. Again, it is nothing substantive. I mean, we could talk about the Cabrera trade. Mets slightly linked to Cabrera for a moment. That's not the way that it wound up going down. Cubs get Cabrera for their number 1 overall prospect plus more, which seems wild. But anyway, and then there are some rumors. So I think what we're going to do here for this show is we're going to address the factual stuff. We'll address the rumors. We'll talk about the stuff that we normally do. And then in the second half, we're going to do something a little different. And this is for the folks that say that me and Ibby are just constantly on the side of David Stearns. One of the things that we've been saying throughout the course of this offseason is we're not asking fans to be patient to 2030 or 2028 or even 2027, just till the end of this offseason. And if this is the team that we're looking at, me and Ibby are going to be frustrated too. So in the second half of the show, Ibby and I are going to talk a little bit about the hypotheticals that would make us when the David Stearns hate will become a little bit more, acceptable, I guess, in our eyes, Ibby, if that's a way to put it.
Yeah, I think it's when you brought the idea up to me, I thought it was a good one, and one that can show the other side of us in terms of what would make us upset if this is what ends up happening come spring training and the opening day lineup and things like that. So yeah, I think it's going to be a fun thought exercise, and I think one that shows both sides of the coin, that devil's advocate feeling like you had mentioned before.
All right, so let's talk about the facts first then, even though it's only tangentially related to the Mets. Cabrera goes from the Marlins to the Cubs, like Armand has pointed out here. Cubs number 1 prospect, overall number 47, according to MLB Pipeline. Infielder Christian Hernandez is their number 11 prospect, and third baseman Eduardo De Leon, who is probably unranked or just ranked, out of their top 10 or top 20 or whatever. Ibby, I don't know anything about the Cubs farm system. I don't claim to know anything about it. I know that Cabrera comes with 3 years of control, which is a lot. The stuff is good. Not a guy who's going to give you innings, not a guy who's going to be super relied upon. But I think as it relates to the Mets, that's the thing you want to focus on. The Mets have enough upside play guys. The Mets need stability guys in their rotation. I know everybody talks about ace. Fine. We'd all love an ace. If the Mets traded for Tarek Skubal right now, I would have to do a lap around the apartment. Like, I'd be so excited. If the Mets traded for Freddy Peralta, who would be an ace, I would be thrilled. But everybody talks about the upside that Nolan McLean has, and he does. Maybe he's your ace. Everybody talks about Kodai Senga and his ability to pitch like an ace when healthy and when feeling himself. People talk about, the best that we saw of Sean Manaea and how he looked like an ace. He's not an ace, but he looked like one. The Mets have a lot of upside play guys. That doesn't even mention Tong. It doesn't even mention Sproat. So to me, a guy who's going to, average around 100 innings or so, to me, that's not somebody the Mets ever should have been linked to, regardless of control, regardless of age, regardless of how good stuff is. And then when you factor in, you're going to have to give up premium assets to acquire him. Now, I think the Mets farm system is probably ranked better than the Cubs, which is why the Cubs had to give up their number 1 overall prospect, which the Mets would not have to do in this deal. But I mean, to me, this was one of those things when the Mets are linked to Edward Cabrera. I'm like, why?
Yeah, I think when it comes to Cabrera, he always felt as if he would have been a player that would have slotted in nicely, but didn't really answer what this team needed in terms of the front end. Now, look, he's young. Could he work into something like that? Sure. But shout out to Armand for sending this to me earlier. I told him I'd bring it up on the show. And this was before the Cabrera deal even happened. We were going back and forth about how we were iffy on Edward Cabrera as a pitcher in general, mainly because of the injuries. So when you're giving up premium assets like the Cubs had to do for 3 years of control and hoping that you can unlock this pitcher to be a potential ace frontline starter for you, he does come with a lot of baggage. 2021, right biceps inflamed nerve. He returned in June, so it was a short stint there. 2022, right elbow tendonitis, right ankle as well. 2023, right shoulder impingement. 2024, right shoulder impingement again, right biceps discomfort as well. 2025, recurring right middle finger blister, right elbow sprain to end the season. There's a lot going on there. And look, he passed the physical, so the deal ended up going through, so he's healthy enough to make this trade happen. But everything that John mentioned before about what Mets fans want. You want stability. You want innings. You want things that are guaranteed. What, he's pitched 100 innings one time, I think, so far. So, look, he's someone that could have slotted in nicely in terms of building out a rotation that's youthful and seeing if they can reach the next level. But as I've been saying, that I think this team needs something that's a little bit more of a stabilizer, like what I've mentioned, a Framber Valdez type, a veteran pitcher like that provides innings, that allows the kids to slot down one or two spots, that allows them to get comfortable at the big league level, to unlock their potential. So then once that player fades out, they can then become the leaders of the rotation to then welcome in the next crop of players. Thinking that you're going to get that from someone like Cabrera now, I think would be unfair to him, even though he has talent. I'm not going to say he's not a talented pitcher, but for what they were probably asking for, if I had to guess, it's in division similar to Cassie. They're probably going to push for AJ Ewing, who I think the Mets are very high on, had a breakout season last year. We've talked about him on the show earlier last year. I mentioned him a couple of times, but I think that's something that they would have pushed for. Not something that I would have done. I think that they view him as a legit center field option for this team down the road, maybe in a year or so. I think they want to keep Benjamin left. That's my thought process so far, but we'll see how things go when we talk about some outfielders that are available if those things do come to fruition. But I don't think they want to give up Ewing, and I think this also speaks to the type of talent that they're searching for in terms of what they have to give up. Would they get rid of a Ewing? Yes, if the deal is proper, if the deal makes sense in terms of the arm talent that's coming back. Would they have to give up a Ewing for a deal, let's say, for Freddy Peralta? Maybe, even though it's only the 1 year, could be the headliner, maybe. But I think you're looking at the higher end, and that's where they're trying to shop.
I have an offshoot. It's sort of a digression here. Question for you, and just you, because I don't super feel comfortable answering it. You're more of a prospect guy than me, but you mentioned, AJ Ewing potentially going to the Brewers in a deal for Freddy Peralta, even though there's just the 1 year of control. I understand all of that. You personally, not what you think the Mets would do.
Yeah.
Ibby's opinion alone. Would you rather give up as a headliner for, let's say, Freddy Peralta? Would you rather give up AJ Ewing or Jet Williams? I know you like Jet Williams a lot.
I do. I like Jet a lot. I do. The 1 year thing, like I always battle this because I don't think even though the market's crazy right now, that's because these guys have control. But if you're asking me, like, gun to my head, like, you have to make a decision. Myself, looking at this team, I feel that Jet deserves to be on the dirt, but I also think that where this team is at the moment, I wouldn't be shocked if they did move him because they have some blockage and they have other pieces within the system too. Like if they needed to close a deal and that's what would get it done, I wouldn't be overly upset. Like I like the guy a lot. I would like him to be here. But in terms of looking at it, I think it'd make more sense to hold Ewing in that situation that you just presented to me. But I still don't think they would have to give it up. But if they do, as a closer, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. Because I've said before, I want Freddy Peralta on the team. I really do.
Yeah, that's a very fair perspective. And obviously, whenever I pose a question like that to Ibby, and I'm like, obviously the chat can chime in, and they have. Twist Your Dream says, buy Jet in that situation. We have Carlos Ortiz saying Jet Williams, John. That's the one that Carlos would get rid of. And then we have Paul Bunyan, who said, I see I'm going to say that means Jet. I see the word Jet in there, and I'm going to go with that. No, look, I look at it this way. I said I wasn't going to reply, but the only thing that I will add to it is I know Jet can play the outfield, but I think if you're the Mets and you look at their 40-man roster, their 26-man roster, and their organizational depth throughout the minor leagues, I would rather give up the guy who, to your words, should be on the dirt. That's my feeling. I think Jet can play the outfield. I think Jet can maybe play center field. But if you have a guy like AJ Ewing who just profiles as a very good, legitimate major league center fielder defensively, I think the way the Mets are currently constituted, that's the player you would want to keep, not the guy who would be he's a good enough athlete to go to the outfield, but is probably an infielder if we're all being super honest with each other. We have Paul Revere saying Ewing is a legit center fielder. I agree with that. Truman Quinn, John's face is bare as 2026 Citi Field. I hope not. I hope that's not the case. Just a couple things really quick. Ken Thal saying, hey, John, the Stearns hater here. So tell me it's early. Stearns will get this team ready to go. Yay. When will he get it ready to go? Stick around for the second half, Ken. I think the second half of the show is going to be your style of show. Shout out Pope for reposting the stream over on
Pope.
Twitter. Thank you
Appreciate
very much. I know Ibby was able to answer in the comments, but thank you for doing that. Couple things here as we move on from Cabrera here in a second. Ethan saying, I'm fine with them not getting Cabrera. Mets can get someone better. Armand saying 3 years of control is what got the haul. I agree.
True.
Armand, thank you. I misspoke saying he averages 100 innings. What I meant to say was he only has 100 innings once. Thank you for saying that, correcting me, and also, allowing me to kind of realize that. So appreciate that. Brad saying they already have that type of pitcher on the roster. Go get a no doubt pitcher. Ibby, I just want to pull this one back up from Ethan KL really quick, saying the Mets can get someone better. There was an interaction between Keefe, shout out Keefe, and I believe it was Ernest Dove, shout out Ernest, where Ernest basically said, it shows me that the Mets probably didn't like the player. And then Keefe said, hey, I think that they can just go get somebody better. And to which I replied to both, I think they're both right. Like, I don't think the Mets loved the player at the cost of acquisition and the fit, like we already talked about. And I think to Key's point, like, there are better pitchers to go get. Freddy Peralta is just objectively better. There are even people, I think that maybe, some of these other potential deals, maybe don't happen, right? Because who knows if Pablo Lopez or Joe Ryan are really available, whatever. But like, there are just better guys that you can go get. And I think the cost of acquisition, even if it translated to the Mets, I don't know, 6th prospect or 5th best prospect to headline the deal, to me, I just don't think this was something the Mets really had the stomach for. Forget about the deficiencies that Cabrera has. I just don't know. I think there is better. There's better out there, better fit and better player, period.
Yeah. I just think that when it comes to finally opening up this farm and making a deal, I think that they want something that is of a higher ceiling. I think that's ultimately what it is, regardless of said years, because like I said, would they give up a prospect that is maybe closer towards the top end for them if it meant them getting a top flight arm like a Peralta? I still think that they would. Again, markets always dictate how much something is going to cost. I know things are crazy right now, but remember, Shane Baz, 3 years control. Edward Cabrera, 3 years of control. Teams are always hunting years and being able to hold these pitchers for longer periods of time, as opposed to getting 1 year, potentially losing them for that 1 year because of injury and the volatility of the position as a whole. So all in all, I think that they're going to shoot higher. The article from The Athletic came out today about some names that they are connected to when it comes to looking through the trade market. Yes, Cabrera was on there, but Freddy Peralta's on there too, and Tarek Skubal's on there, even though I still don't think Skubal's going anywhere. But, Skubal's on there, and they have some other names on there as well, like on the lower end, like a Brady Singer, and they had Chris Bubich as well. So there are players that are being spoken about, and I still believe that the Mets are going to better this rotation through trade. I just think that they're going to shoot higher, which is why I'm still of the belief that they're going to push, and do everything that they can to land a pitcher that is Freddy Peralta. I do.
It's also one of those things, Ibby, if the cost of acquisition is high across the board, I would rather pay more to get better. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, the Mets farm system by some accounts is the best in baseball, right? It's top 3, it's top 5. Certainly some people think it's the best. And the Mets say, oh, we could swoop in and we could outbid the Cubs for Cabrera, knowing that we only have to give up, I'm just pulling this number out of my ass, but the 7th best prospect that we have instead of their top prospect. Okay, well then give up your 4th best prospect and go get Freddy Peralta. Go get me somebody who can do the things that you need. This is a good one from Frankie, who says, give me Ranger Suarez over Framber Valdez. This has been something that Frankie's been pushing a lot on Twitter. And look, I don't think the Mets can go wrong in either way. I do think, though, there's something to be said here about Ranger Suarez, Ibby, if you look under the hood, is kind of just a younger version of Framber Valdez. Now, whether that costs you more because he's younger or less because he's unproven, or the same-ish amount because it's sort of a wash, if you look at some of the numbers that they've had over their careers, Ranger Suarez does kind of project as like the next Framber Valdez. So I wouldn't be mad with either. I would be happiest with Peralta, also agreeing with you that I don't think Scooble's getting dealt. So to me, it's Peralta and then kind of a step down even before these guys. I'd be happy with both, but I do think it's not crazy. You could make a case for Ranger. Now, I know that Ranger doesn't give you some of the like extreme innings that Valdez has given you historically, but what if Valdez is on the trend down, Ranger's on the trend up? You could make the case that Ranger's a better move if the Mets were going to go the free agent route.
I can understand it. I'm with, Joe DeMeo in the comments where it's like, you want Ranger over Framber. Yuck. Like, look, Ranger is a fine pitcher to me. He's done it in a big market. He's pitching some big games as well. Like, for me, I've always, like, if I'm choosing between those as my options, which, Buster Olney, who a lot of us don't care for, and, he's already lost a family farm, saying things that I felt were more based on opinion as opposed to fact, where he's saying how, the Mets are, inevitable when it comes to landing someone the ilk of Framber or Ranger. I still question if this team is going to give up the picks and losing of the international money for any of these pitchers. I really do at this point. Like, I think that they're going to exhaust the trade route. And I think that no matter what, they're going to trade for something as opposed to paying out someone. But if they happen to do that and I'm wrong and they pay out instead, I still lean more on the Framber side. I understand the argument from a younger version, but the velo, I know that Framber's is down to, I know Framber gets barreled up a lot, but maybe it's just from what I've seen, I know it's going to be on the lower end. Like, I can see Framber getting less years as opposed to Ranger. I just think that Framber just, in my opinion, fits better. I think as the veteran that he is, the big games that he's pitched in, the pedigree that he's had with Houston, could he be on the downtrend? Yes, but that's also why I think he's going to get less years. I think that's why he's not getting the numbers he thought he was going to get in this market, and everyone's waiting him out, so he's going to have to settle for a 2 or 3 year deal, whereas I think Ranger could potentially land a 4 or 5 year deal if someone like Baltimore continues to be all in. I just don't know if I want to give that type of deal to a soft tossing lefty, essentially. Like, I don't know if I want to do that as a guy that we think we're going to plug in towards the front end of our rotation. He wasn't really at the front end for the Phillies. Like, that was Zach Wheeler. And that was, to a lesser extent, Aaron Nola during the time frame while there. Granted, Ranger has had his moments of dominance, if you will, where he's been, won a lot of games and he was very hot for a period of time, but he's also had rough second halves as well, similar to Framber. So, like, it can go either way, but if you're asking me to choose between the two, I'm always going to choose Framber, but I still don't think either one is going to be a Met.
I think you make a great point across the board, honestly. Joe DeMeo did say that, he simply cannot make that case at all, LOL, that he would take Suarez over Framber Valdez. I do understand it. I think ultimately, Ibby, you're right, where I don't know that the Mets want to surrender a qualifying offer to any of those players. And that's why, and they have assets to trade. I know it's tough to stomach a potential 1-year rental and giving up guys in the top 10 of your farm system and whatever the case may be. I know that's tough, but they just have such a glut of major league players who are now out of options, who haven't really acquitted themselves yet, plus some major league players who are out of options, who are firmly in the plans. I'm looking at people like Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty and Luisangel Acuna. Ronnie Mauricio only has one option left, and you now have the next wave of prospects ready to get here. Jet Williams is one call away. In a blink of an eye, Ryan Clifford's going to be one call away potentially. Carson Benj is probably going to make the team out of spring training, barring something insane. And, you're looking at this, and all of a sudden you have this logjam on your roster. I think they just have to pull the trigger on this deal, or rather a deal that gets you a pitcher, because I don't think, no matter how the market for Framber Valdez, let's say, falls into your lap, I don't know that you're going to get the best value there. Because then what are you holding on to everybody? And you're running it back with the same clogged roster of Luisangel Acuna, and then it's like, well, if Brett Beatty starts off slow, I guess we'll try Vientos again at third, or we'll try Mauricio again at third. We all have the guys that we like and we don't like. That's the thing I'm most tired of. I'm tired of the guys who are now 26 years old who haven't done much of anything, or have had a couple of little exciting moments, and just saying, well, let's stick it out one more time. Like, you don't have any options. So I don't know. To me, I think you're spot on. I think you need to be willing to deal, and you need to be willing to deal some meaningful piece or two with, some of these guys. Like, obviously Mark Vientos is not getting you Freddy Peralta, but Mark Vientos could be in the deal. I don't know if that's what they want, but the point is, like, some of these guys can be in the deal, and I think that's what you have to start to look at. Gab saying, Ibby spitting literal facts and wisdom tonight. Ibby for Pobo. There you go.
that's better paying than my job now, so I appreciate that. Yeah, that'd be nice.
It would be better paying than your job right now, because there's only 30 of them, and I'm told that $10 million is a good amount of money.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah. Really quickly, we'll talk about Bellinger in a couple minutes, but Carlos Ortiz saying, does Bellinger have the qualifying offer attached to him? He does not, which is a factor as well. M Easy saying, would you call the Giants about Logan Webb and offer the prospects for him? I'm just thinking outside the box. They, yes, meaning the Giants, need a young prospect second base and the outfield. I would, sure. The Giants will hang up on you. They're not giving you Logan Webb.
They're not giving up. Yeah, he's
the
one of the
most
best
underrated pitcher in baseball. Maybe?
Yeah, yes, because it's the Giants. It's out west. Nobody watches those games. He probably comes across as boring to a lot of people. He's absolutely filthy. They're not getting rid of him. They're going to hold him.
Yeah, he's probably the third best pitcher in baseball, which is not a. I'm seeing Keith's. Shout out Keith. We mentioned Keith a couple minutes ago, but he's saying bro shaved. I did. I guess you missed the beginning of the show. Saying my boys are the new members of the Death Riders now. If you watch AEW wrestling, and then John looks mad Spanish now. WTF? Forget baseball. Let's talk about beards and hair. Like, you know what? Let's do it. Honestly, I mean, this one is there's a couple contenders in there for potential comments.
Keep them starred for sure. Oh, hold on. What is this? Well, before you bring that one up, Truman, this is a little hurtful. Can't tell if maybe it's 25 or 55. Come on, man. What the hell is this?
Yeah, it's finally it's nice for Ibby to get a little bit of hate on here. I got to be honest with you.
What the hell is this, Truman? I mean, I thought we had a good back and forth there. I'm 37. I mean, come on, man, you're killing me here. Jesus,
so funny. It's what's fun. It's funnier than the comment is your reaction.
Like, what the hell?
How incensed you are. It's hilarious to me. But yeah. Tank said, coming for the top comment, let me cook something. So, you never know where this top comment's going to come from.
And there it is.
Go.
It's all under John. It's Juan.
That's okay. But it's not. That's not. That one's not going to get it done.
That's not going to get it.
But there's time. A lot of time left in this show.
Come on, Armand.
Listen, Paul Revere says you don't look a day over 36, Ibby. So
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Okay. Since we already kind of teased Cody Bellinger in a way by bringing up the qualifying offer thing, and because about 10 minutes ago Gab was like, I'm ready to talk belly, we should probably talk about Cody Bellinger and Kyle Tucker and the rumors therein, because I think that's where some of these things are trending in terms of the market. Like Tomb Raider says, need to trade for an arm to take these conversations is the perfect segue. That's making 10 mil or less. So Freddy Peralta check that to go out and afford Tucker or Bellinger, especially if you're going to do a higher AAV, lower term thing for Tucker. You might be paying him whatever, $35 to $45 million a year, depending on the length of that contract. So Ibby, let's talk about Bellinger first, or Tucker. Actually, you take it the way that you want to go as far as this is concerned. Would you rather start with Kyle Tucker or start with Cody Bellinger?
I feel like Kyle Tucker has been the talking point for the last 48 hours, so we can hop in on that. And I do have a poll going on the YouTube side. If you haven't voted yet, make sure that you do. It's a simple question, and 40 of you have voted so far. Make sure you vote if you haven't yet. It's asking, if the Mets were to land an outfielder, which one would you rather have, Kyle Tucker or Cody Bellinger? I didn't put in contract details. This is straight up just the player itself. 52% so far say Kyle Tucker, while 49 up now it just changed again after another vote. 51%, not changed again. 51% for Kyle Tucker, 49% for Cody Bellinger.
I wish the show just kept going that way. We never got through the rest of the show. He just goes, nope, changed again. Nope, wait, hold on. Just for the next hour and 10 minutes.
So I think that's where I'll start with Kyle Tucker, because that's been a big talking point, because people are starting to read more rumor and run with things, whether they are from proper verified people or not. Look, I think it's fascinating, and I had said to John weeks ago on this show that Kyle Tucker made all the sense in the world from a building standpoint with this team in terms of age, when you were trying to get someone to grow with Juan Soto, which I do believe is what they are trying to do. They're trying to get him running mates to maximize his prime, unlike what a team such as the Angels were able to do. Now, look, they had Shohei Ohtani for X amount of time as well with Trout. Granted, it wasn't during the prime Trout years, but regardless, you want to make sure you have running mates and further build out the team as well, which is what they want to do. It's not just going to be this is the fix all with Kyle Tucker, but I do think he makes a lot of sense. And I was very surprised when I heard something earlier during a space, which was mentioning that Robert Murray, who's been saying a lot about the Mets, who's a respected reporter, Robert Murray talking about the Mets and saying how they were in on Kyle Tucker. He said that 2 weeks ago, I want to say. And then, Ben Nicholas Smith, who is big when it comes to the Blue Jays, had mentioned that he wasn't sure if that Kyle Tucker was going to get something from the Blue Jays anymore in terms of long-term, what he wants. He thought it would come from the Mets. There's a lot of smoke right now. Now, look, the Mets don't let anything leak anymore, which is what drives people up a wall. They don't get anything. They don't get these clues anymore. So it's just hearing from one person, running with it, creating narratives, so on and so forth. What was said during Robert Murray's Discord today, his private Discord that you have to pay for, people ask questions, and he answered in saying that at the moment, this is not yet verified, so I'm not 100% sure, so don't run with this. I'm not presenting it as fact. It's just something that was potentially said that I thought was interesting that could bring forth good discussion.
It'd be about to get killed in 3, 2.
No, it is not that. What
1.
was said, what was
you're going to get crushed,
said,
no matter what you say.
So apparently, and this is why I'm iffy on it, the Jays have a 9-year offer out there for Tucker. The Mets apparently have a 7-year offer out there, and the Dodgers have a 4-year offer. Now, that's what was said. Now, do I believe that? I don't know if I do, mainly because the way this market's been going and the fact that no one's been getting term, if Kyle Tucker was offered 9 years at this point, I feel like it would be a done deal. I feel like he'd be a Blue Jay by now. There'd be no more waiting in the sense, because no one else is going to go there, because the Mets are only at 7. You think they're going to push for 3 more years to give you 10? It feels as though it would already be there. I believe that I still think he's going to end up being a Blue Jay. I do. I just think it makes too much sense. Springer's off the books next year. They need a lefty. They need an outfielder. Like, it makes too much sense for the Blue Jays to close this. Now, can the Mets make it interesting and make this potentially a thing? Yeah, for sure. If you up the money, if you gave him 8 years at $300 million, yeah, it's possible. Will they do that? I don't know if they will. But I still think that Kyle Tucker makes a hell of a lot more sense in terms of the full scope of the team moving forward, which is what this team has always been talking about under David Stearns, is the full scope and moving forward. I feel like he makes more sense. I feel like Cody Bellinger makes sense now, makes sense today. But I still don't think that they're going to give Cody Bellinger the same exact contract, or like what people think, like he's pushing for 6 years. Like I've said it time and time again. It doesn't make sense for this Mets team to wash themselves of Brandon Nimmo to then give the same exact contract to Cody Bellinger. Like I know he's better.
Who's only like 2 years younger than Nimmo.
Like I don't see it. And the way you're going to eventually go down as a hitter, your defense, if you're still going to be making $27 million a year, is only going to carry you so far. And you're not going to have the power, if you were moved permanently to first base, to make up for that, because you're not going to smack 35 home runs. You're going to smack maybe 20 home runs as you begin to age. So again, it's very odd to me, whereas Kyle Tucker has been a 30-30 type player for the majority of his career to this point. Yes, I know the injuries. Yes, I understand that there's questions about New York for him. I get all of that. But I just think it makes more sense, and that's the player that I would rather have, which is, look, we've known this forever. I'm Team Tucker. John is Team Bellinger. Like, we that's fine, but...
Hang on.
Oh.
Wait.
Yeah.
Hold on. I do not like Cody Bellinger better than Kyle Tucker. I just never thought until like the last week, maybe, that Kyle Tucker was ever possible for the team.
Okay, fair enough.
I do not, just to be fair, like, I would be happy if the Mets signed Cody Bellinger because they need someone. They need an outfielder. His versatility does fit the team, to your point, this year. Like, right now, he fits really well. And from
everything
a positional standpoint, like he probably, quote unquote, fits the best. Kyle Tucker's a better player than Cody Bellinger. So, and he's a younger player, but he's better. So if I had to pick one, you told me they can get whichever one I pick, I'm picking Kyle Tucker 100 times out of 100, just to be clear. I just didn't think it was ever realistic.
I know that people use this, and I understand it too, like proven. And David Stearns has said this too about New York tested, and clearly when you take over the Yankees and Mets players go to the Yankees as well, like it is a thing to see that a player can perform in this pressure cooker. And like we've seen Bellinger do it in New York. We haven't seen Tucker do it. He played in Houston, played in Chicago. Like he hasn't done it here. Like I understand that is a talking point, and I can even get behind it, but I can't get behind when people are saying, or people a lot have been putting him down and saying he's overrated. I think for the most part he's been underrated by some people. But I feel like people saying he's overrated, he's not worth X amount of money, he's not a good ball player, Bellinger is better. It's like I think Bellinger is great for the Yankees. I do. I think he's great for the Mets in the short term for sure. But all things considered, the reason why I have a hard time with Bellinger is because if things are close, which I think they would be, he's not coming to the Mets. He's going back to the Yankees if things are close, which then tells me, is David Stearns and this Met front office really going to go above and beyond years-wise or money-wise to land Cody Bellinger? I don't know if they would, and I don't think it makes that much sense, which is why I have a hard time thinking that he is going to be here, because it doesn't pass the smell test with everything that's gone on to this point, and then bringing it back to Nimmo. Like it doesn't compute to me. It doesn't.
Yeah, I think there was a moment in time where earlier in the offseason where maybe you think, okay, neither guy's going to get what they want, Tucker or Bellinger, in terms of years. So instead of 10 years, Tucker's going to get 7, and instead of 6 or 7, Bellinger's going to have to settle for 4. If you go in with that thought process, I understand why the Mets are like, well, yeah, let's go 4 on Bellinger. It's a shorter term. We'd still be out of that deal before we were ever out from Nimmo. He's probably going to make more in AAV, but he's going to be a better player over the life of that contract because he is younger and more athletic. And if he ever does lose his athleticism, we could put him at first base, whatever. I could see how they would value that. But now as this has gone on, Ibby, it seems as though if for no other reason, the interest in Bellinger being the cheaper alternative to Kyle Tucker has pushed his market up. And people still not wanting to give Kyle Tucker 10 years has pushed his market down. So now all of a sudden we're talking about, is it a 5-year deal or a 6-year deal for Bellinger and a 7-year deal for Tucker? Because I'm giving the deal to Tucker then. I mean, if it's equal, obviously, if it's a 7-year deal for both, I'm giving the deal to Tucker. I don't care what the money is. I'd rather have that player. But even if it starts to get anywhere close, like I said, if it's 5 years for Bellinger or 7 for Tucker, well, Tucker's, again, he's a younger player by, I think, 2 or 3 full years. So when you start to do that math, I think that's when the scales have kind of tipped back in the other direction. Let's get some comments out of the way. Keith saying, Marco Scutero on the left, John Olerud on the right. There you go. To which Mike Laverty said, it's Neil Walker and Raul Ibanez.
There you go.
The Ibanez Ibanez thing is kind of fun, but Keith's comment came first. So, you have to kind of think about that as we think about comment of the day. As you were about to give your Robert Murray comments from the private Discord, Joe DeMeo said, I am going to aggregate whatever Ibby says. Armand said, this will get clipped. And then,
of course it will.
The headline for Joe DeMeo is, Cody Bellinger makes no sense. Which is all just really, 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 really wonderful stuff. But
which is the internet world that we do live in, unfortunately. Yes.
Honestly, that's how it would go. That's exactly how it would go.
That's exactly how it would go.
So a couple things here. Armand saying, I believe that Tucker has the Mets 7-year offer that you alluded to and the Dodgers 4-year offer alluded to, and both have opt-outs in it. That's the part that Armand is adding that he thinks. Okay. He also thinks that Tucker and the Blue Jays have most likely talked about a 9-year deal. Again, all in his opinion. So basically, following the same report from Robert Murray, Armand thinks there is a 7-year offer and a 4-year offer. Those feel real, and that would kind of make sense, right? Do you want to go to the Dodgers on a shorter term, probably for more money per, or do you take this really lucrative deal from the Mets that is less per, and it's not the Dodgers, and it's still not your 10-year deal? Like, I could see you waffling over that, knowing that you've talked to the Blue Jays. Maybe they haven't put a formal offer out there, and it seems as though they're interested in something longer. So I think that's as good of a guess as anyone can make. Carson, along the same line, says, Tucker's defense hasn't been very coveted the last 3 years, so I completely understand more driving interest to Bellinger, who can also play first. The Tucker interest seems like pure term discussion. So again, Ibby, a lot of people thinking that it's going to come down to term for this deal. Like, will someone meet what is close to Kyle Tucker's asking price or asking years?
Yeah.
And I think if the Mets are willing to do that, they've got as good a chance as anyone. Because here's, I guess, the tricky part. Here's the counterbalance. Rosie says, I don't know how the Mets compete with the Dodgers for Tucker unless they overpay him, and I don't know if the Mets would be willing to do that. Followed it up by saying, Tucker wants to go to a team where he can blend in. Can he do that with the Mets? So these are two different sides of the argument from Rosie here, but Ibby, I think he can blend in. Francisco Lindor is a big star. Juan Soto is a big star. If Nola McLean continues what he's doing, McLean's going to be a big star. I think Kyle Tucker can blend in a little bit on the Mets. Certainly not the way that he can blend in on the Dodgers, but I don't think that's a factor. I think the Mets might be willing to overpay here a little bit. I think
they would have to, because there's no incentive on the short term to not go to the Dodgers. Yeah.
Right, but I don't want to say that Kyle Tucker is like it's foregone conclusion. This is hard to figure out, and it's a dangerous game the Mets are playing.
Of course.
But I think, Ibby, the longer this goes, I think there's a chance, and I did tweet something similar, that maybe playing this market for Kyle Tucker was a big part of the plan all along. It might not work. The Dodgers might swoop in and give him, $200 million for 4 years. I have no idea. And he'll go there.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe people want to talk about the plan. What's the plan? The plan. This might have been it. I don't know.
I mean, like I'm still curious. Like when I go back to that Robert Murray thing in the Discord about the years, I was talking with David Stearns Burner on Twitter, whoever is following over there. Good follow, knows his stuff. Very active in spaces lately. He was here last week too in the chat. I was talking to him about like what these offers might be, and I said, what could the Jays offer be? Why he's so hesitant? And my guess was like maybe they offered 9 years, 297. I said very odd number, but I was like 33 a year, which I think a player like this is probably shooting for more on the average annual. But they're extending the years probably in terms of what everyone else is, and hoping to get him at a cheaper AAV, which is what we've seen other teams do. We've seen the Phillies do with like Trey Turner. We saw that monstrosity of a contract with Xander Bogaerts for the Padres too. Like people give more years to try and get under in terms of the AAV. So that would have been at 33 a year. And then my counter was like, well, maybe the Mets come in at 7 years in comparison to the 9, 7 years at 260, which I believe equates to about 37.5 a year, which might be a sweet spot just under 40. I think he wants 40 a year. I just don't think anyone's offering that. But then I said, if you stay within that, if you offered one more year, if you offered 8 years, 37.5 a year, so 8 for 300, is that something that closes the deal? I think it makes him think a little bit for sure. I just don't think that he's going to get that overall 10 years, 400 million, where we were talking last year, he was potentially going to be around the Vlad area in terms of overall money because he is an outfielder. It's, he's a strong defender. Granted, he's a little bit slower, but still strong defender, different than Vlad, not first base. Close in age, still Vlad hasn't by a year or two. But I wonder if this is the route that they end up going. And the main reason why I think Tucker is on the table, whether they get him or not, doesn't matter. Why I think he is on this table is because they look ahead, as they said that they often do, because you have to listen when they speak. You look ahead and look at the offense in terms of free agency and what's available moving forward. It's not pretty in terms of offense moving forward. So if you want something, if you think that this is that bat, you got to go and get it. If you don't, then obviously you are saying you are comfortable with your process and how you're going to develop the offensive side. We've seen the pitching develop. You're confident what the offense is going to provide you from the farm because there's not going to be much out there to get outside of smaller, rotational type pieces for the next couple of years before another big star is available for you to add into the lineup.
Also, let's be fair, Ibby. Will that star ever make it to free agency?
Also true. You never know.
We don't know. Like, look, I firmly believe, and shout out Manny Gomez, doesn't cover the Mets anymore. But when he did for the NJ Advance, he was on with us during the offseason last year, and he said it is his feeling just from being around the team, talking to people, never was reporting anything, that the Mets' ultimate plan was to try to pair Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with Juan Soto, both at the 25 and 26 or 26 and 27 come this offseason, put those two guys together and try to duplicate what Boston had all those years with Big Papi and Manny Ramirez. And I think that is aside from maybe David Stern's aversion to paying first baseman, I think it's a different animal. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is so young and he's such a complete hitter for the most part. I think that's what their goal was. Well, guess what? It never happened. So when we look around the landscape of the league, right, we could joke and we could wish and we could pipe dream about this team shedding money, and the Mets getting Fernando Tatis Jr. The fact of the matter is Fernando Tatis Jr. is signed for like 14 years with San Diego. You look and you see what Bobby Witt Jr. is signed. The Oakland A's just signed all their guys that are young, that are superstars. They're all signed. So now you start to look around and you're like, okay, well, is it, I don't know, Gunnar Henderson? Well, how do you know? The Orioles have a new owner. How do you know they're not just going to try to sign him? Is it Ellie Cruz? Well, who is Cincinnati paying?
Right.
They're not paying anyone.
Yeah.
So maybe they just keep Ellie De La Cruz if that's the guy. So all of a sudden you can't worry about this. It's the bird in the hand, two in the bush philosophy. I understand that, maybe Tucker is not the perfect profile. I mean, he's pretty goddamn close. If he was right-handed and he hits lefties fine and Soto hits lefties fine, so I don't think it really matters. But if he was right-handed and or a year and a half younger, he'd be the perfect player to pair with Juan Soto, and there would be no question. So, I think that's really what we're looking at here, and that's what you have to, start to think about, whether or not this was, again, the plan all along. And Frankie brings up a good point. At the end of the day, if the Mets land either Cody or Tucker, fans should be happy regardless. I do agree with that, but I think that when you look at the quality of player of Tucker, his second comment, would there be a better 1-2-3 than Lindor, Soto, Tucker? I mean, that's up there with anybody.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
up there with the Dodgers. The Dodgers are going to have a deeper lineup, and I understand Ohtani's the best of all the players, blah, 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 blah. You're starting to get into that territory, though. You really are. So, I don't know, man.
If anything, for me,
player at the perfect time.
For me, I just think that, I know a lot of people are focused in on him being, a low-key type of guy and wondering if it would work in New York. And look, I get that. And sometimes guys just don't want to be in New York because they just like going about their business and just playing ball. And I know that, Juan Soto is on a different level because he's one of the, he's a generational talent. He's the best, arguably the best hitter in baseball, what have you. But he's a guy that also just likes to come in and do his job, which is to the chagrin of a lot of people because they think he should be doing more. But it's just like, he's a guy that comes in, loves his family, and works hard and plays baseball. I think that this team and David Stearns wants ball players, like no bullshit ball players. And I think Kyle Tucker is just that. Is he flashy? No. Is he a master of anything? No, he's not. But he's really good across the board as a ball player. And I think having something like that on your team is a good thing. Now, ultimately, he might not end up being here. This is all just wasted words and we're blowing hot air. Maybe it is, but I'm just saying from a ball player perspective, for what David Stearns has looked at and liked before in players and how it matches up with his overall profile. Like, I just think it makes a ton of sense. Now, if it ends up happening or not is neither here nor there, but I just think that this is a player, in my opinion, is proper in terms of age, overall talent, and what is going to be on the market for the next couple of years, in comparison to, letting this pass by and saying, oh, we'll get something on the next ride. It's like, it might not be there, man. Might not be there.
Keith saying, watch Tucker sign tonight now because of the
Probably.
show.
the second we go off, he's going to sign by like 9:00 tonight. It's going to happen. Watch.
Odd Villain with a really good point here. I still blame Flip. Shout out, Master Flip.
Shout out, Flip. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. Odd Villain has been, and not just Odd, but a lot of folks in the community have been blaming Flip for his jersey edits. Like anytime Flip gets like super locked in on a player, they sign like near immediately with another team. It's kind of funny. This one would be less funny because I really do want Tucker. Joe Prano, shout out Joe Prano saying,
shout out, Joe.
I assumed the second they traded Nimmo that it was so they could add Tucker and not have the worst defensive outfield in the history by moving Nimmo to center field. Ibby, this does line up as a thought process with yours, where it's, why trade Nimmo? I understand he's not a great athlete. The body's breaking down. The contract is bad on the back end. You could get rid of that. You always do. But why trade Nimmo, turn around and give similar years to Bellinger when they're very similar offensive players and you're paying the extra premium just for his defense? It seems like the Mets could have added, if they really wanted to. They don't re-sign Pete Alonso. They never trade Brandon Nimmo. You could still make the case for bringing Bellinger in, letting Bellinger play some first, some center, some left, get Brandon Nimmo out of there. Brandon Nimmo could DH more. He would fit the team whether Nimmo was here or not. Tucker is the one that fits the team when you say we're going to move on from Nimmo, and only once you say we're going to move on from Nimmo. So I think that's possible. And I think Frankie makes a good point here. Stearns traded for an extended Yelich for 8 years. It's a similar profile, just makes too much sense. And also he was with Houston when they drafted Tucker. Make it happen. I think the Yelich comparisons are very fair. I think the astuteness of trading for Yelich and giving him a long-term deal at a similar age, and also being there when they drafted Tucker, all of this makes a ton of sense, as does Joe's comment.
100%. And I think that, I mean, yes, there is a difference in timing when it comes to, you know, Yelich got his years and what he got like 180 million, which was a ton back when that happened. This is a different story. But again, you're in a different spot too, where, you know, Milwaukee is different than New York, and you can afford to, you know, throw some extra cash on there. It's just going to come down to the years, as it is going to continue with a lot of these teams that don't want to give out term, like we talked about last week with the, you know, agreeing with Joe DeMaio in the comments about, you know, players want term, teams don't. So that's really what it's going to come down to. And I still think that if it was true with the Blue Jays and Tucker, and he had 9 years on the table, I feel like he would be gone already. I do. I feel like if that was a legit report, if that was true that they had 9 years on the table, unless they're offering him like no money, like, hey, we'll give you years, but we're not going to pay you that much.
Right. Like not like 25 a year.
Like if it's that, it's like, I can understand. Okay, I'm not going to be locked in for 9 years then to make 25 a year. Like if, you know, it's very peculiar to me how there's been so much smoke around the Jays, yet nothing has happened. It's almost as if he's inviting other teams because he wants other teams, because he doesn't want to go there, or he's just trying to push them to this number that they're not willing to go to until someone else proves that they're willing to go there. But I don't think anyone is going to hit that number. That's why I think there's this giant standstill, and he has to make a decision.
Gab saying earlier, and this is good insight, David Stearns' burner, the account that you mentioned, is actually David Stearns. I mean, it is his burner. And Joe DeMaio, who's super plugged in, says you can throw off the scent of being David Stearns by calling yourself David Stearns' burner. Good point, Gab. Nobody would ever suspect it. That's really David Stearns.
I feel pretty cool.
People I trust.
I feel pretty cool about having conversations with the actual David Stearns. That's pretty damn cool.
That's amazing. Rosie saying, do players want to come to the Mets given all the turmoil unless money? Ibby, not a shot at Rosie here. I think there was clearly something amiss with the Mets. Part of it was just that they didn't win enough and these guys were getting older, not younger. I think that's a big part of the reason why they broke up the team. And when you're losing, the culture is always going to seem bad. The clubhouse is always going to seem amiss. So I'm not saying that there was nothing to the stories that we had a few weeks ago and now over a month ago, whatever. But I think it's a bridge too far to call it turmoil. I don't know if you would agree with that. Like, I don't think the Mets are like some toxic, nobody wants to go here destination unless you overpay. Now, look, do you have to overpay to keep a player from the Dodgers? Sure. They're back-to-back World Series champions. And yeah, you could be a superstar. You could go there. Nobody even knows your name because Shohei Ohtani gets all the attention. Sometimes I forget Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman are on the goddamn team. So, but I think it's a bridge too far to call whatever's happening with the Mets turmoil. For me, that's too much.
Yeah, and I think, I think Lazy just said it in the comments. He's saying turmoil is, just an overused term, and it's a bridge too far, like he just said. I don't think it's turmoil. I think turmoil is created through media to generate, talking points and clicks and further feed the frenzy that is social media and as a whole. Like, I don't think it's that. Was there a problem? I'm sure that there was. Is there something amiss? Yeah, something seemed off. We had talked about that the entire year. And they cleaned house, and a lot of people don't like that. But again, you can't complain about something being amiss and then they clean these things out, which should be a little bit of signaling to you to say, hey, maybe they flushed out what they thought was, improper and wrong within the clubhouse or not fitting for what they want to do moving forward, and to bring in professionals that have, long-standing of respect within clubhouses like a Semien or like a Polanco, things that they did for Seattle, or the things that you heard that Semien did when he was in Oakland, when he was in Toronto, when he's in Texas, like all these, like if you're bringing in players like that, yeah, it shows that something was clearly off. But I don't think it's turmoil, and especially when you've cleaned out what many might perceive as a potential issue, then it shouldn't be an issue for someone coming over. And again, it's these guys I don't think they think too much about that stuff. Again, it comes down to money, 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 and then location on top of it too.
Before we go into the break, we're going to go a little over, but I did want to address this one as quickly as we can from Keith, who says, personally, and maybe I'm in the minority, I'd rather them trade for Peralta than sign anything. The bats are great, but we need arms yesterday. Mm-hmm. I don't disagree that the Mets need an arm. I know that the Mets need stability. I already said that I love Peralta. He would be my target. I'd want them to trade for him. I agree with Keith on a lot of this. The point where I disagree is if you're just looking at bodies, if you're just looking at upside, which we don't want to all focus on, but like depth upside, there's much more depth and upside in the starting rotation than there is in the regular lineup. So to me, the bats are great, but we need arms more is where I disagree with Keith. They've created a situation by trading Nimmo and trading to a lesser extent McNeil. They need a bat more than they need anything in the rotation. I still think they need a starter, but they need a bat. They need one. Absolutely need.
Trading for a pitcher the ilk of a Peralta, I think, is the ultimate goal, because I think it makes what they're trying to create with the pitching come to life. I think that putting a Peralta on the front end, coupling that with what you believe Nolan McLean is going to be, what you believe a Sproat and a Tong can be, a Christian Scott, like, while also having Clay Holmes and Manaea for the couple of years that you do moving forward, and Senga and Peterson if he remains. Like, I understand what they're trying to do, but I also think, which is why I've been saying that I'm very hesitant when it comes to them signing an arm. I think that this team would, not that I'm saying it's the right thing, but I think that they would be more than willing to strike out on arms, but they will not strike out when it comes to the offense, because I don't think that they can. I think that they know that they have to make up in those areas, but I think that they'd be willing to, as crazy as it sounds, because of what happened last year, that wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't. They still need pitching. I'm not saying that they don't. I want them to attain pitching. I want Freddy Peralta. I've been saying it on this show. That's my number one target, and I still think it's a possibility. And I think that they can close a deal if he's truly available. They can beat anybody that's going for him. I think that I think he should be the opening day starter for the Mets. We'll see if it happens. And I agree that they need a pitcher, but I also wouldn't be shocked if they opted to focus on those bats. I wouldn't.
Keith's counterpoint, just to be fair, offense was good last year. It can be good again, but we all know what the but is. I think
true.
Look, I think the offense was good in totality for the season. When you look back, you're like, okay, they were good, especially the top four guys, two of which aren't here anymore. So that by that logic alone, I think they need to replace some of what they lost. Now, I think Polanco does that in a way that people are being unfair about. You talked about it. We talked about it on the show last week. You just because of the position that they play, you can't say Polanco's the replacement for Pete. Their offensive profile would show you that Polanco is more the replacement for Nimmo.
Right.
But with more power potential, right? Like there's a world, and not like a far-fetched one. There's a world where Polanco hits 30 home runs and Nimmo's never done that. So I think if we're just being fair, he is more of the replacement for Nimmo. But there were stretches where this offense did not do enough regardless of what the pitching did. So I agree with Keith that the offense was good when you look back on the entirety of 2025, but there were stretches where it disappeared. They've lost two major contributors who were good last year. And then you just look, I think you're going to get a big year out of Alvarez. And I think if Vientos is here and you just give him 500 at bats, he'll probably hit 30 home runs, because all the projections have him hitting 25 playing in like 120 games. So I think he has enough power. He hits the ball hard enough where I don't know what his other stats are going to look like, but I think he'll hit you home runs if he's your everyday DH. So I do think there's some truth to what Keith is saying, but I still disagree. I think they need unquestionably offense. I do.
Yeah, but again, I think it's not. I'm not trying to say they have to pick and choose because they don't. I think that they realize that they have to attack both of these avenues to make this team better, not only for 2026 but just moving forward. And yeah, I know that they don't want to block certain kids and they want to make sure that they give them every opportunity to succeed because they want to see what they have. Like I get that, but I still think that there's a world where they can trade for a top end arm to fit into this rotation to help while shedding another arm somewhere, whether that's a Sanga, whether that is a Peterson or whatever, maybe it's even a Sproat potentially. I don't think they want to move him, but if he is a part of a deal to bring in someone like a Peralta, and I still think that they know that they have to attack the outfield. And if they don't, little preview here, then I'm going to have a problem with that because that's not good enough. And I know that it's all about long-term and then the full scope here, but there are certain things that I can't accept for the 2026 season. If it ends up going that way, well, you'll get a different side of me, but we'll save that for the second half.
Again, just trying to be fair because Keith's not on the show. So I want to give him, the platform because we kind of jumped off this, topic with his initial comment. Yeah. Offense def struggled for sure, but guys, we had the most innings pitched by relievers in all of baseball. I know that was the thing. That was the problem. But again, Keith, just like look at it from the perspective of, if nothing else, we have lost two major contributors from the offense that was good last year, but we didn't really replace one of them who was arguably, the in some ways the second best hitter on the team. So I just think they need something. Plus, they don't have any outfielders. They just don't have any. So if you're going to get a guy, they have to get someone. Maybe like, would you rather Austin Hayes or Cody Bellinger, right? Like you want the guy who's going to play every day. No, I mean, look, I know it's a joke with the nonsense of, Austin Hayes, maybe he's going to be pissed, but like, it's just true. Like right now, their 40-man roster, the outfield is Juan Soto, Tyrone Taylor, that piece of shit dude who's got the domestic violence thing. Bay, J1 Bay.
Bay1, yeah, whatever his name is. Yeah.
And Jared Young is listed as an outfielder. They have four, and Nick Morabito. They have five guys. Nick Morabito, who's never played above AA. Jared Young, who's not an outfielder. Bay, who's not going to be on the roster. They're going to cut him when they make a couple more deals. Juan Soto is excellent. Tyrone Taylor's a fourth or fifth outfielder. They have to get someone. They have to. So anyway, that being said, we're a little over time. Let's head into the break. When we come out, we'll do what we got to do. We'll change the tenor of the show a little bit. And Ibby and I will play devil's advocate. What would make us angry if the Mets didn't execute here in the remainder of the offseason as we head closer and closer and closer towards the start of spring training? John Saponaro, Matt Ibanez, Til Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, live on Substack. We will be right back. Yo, just like that, we are back with Til Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, live on Substack, like we are each and every single week, Wednesdays, 5:30 p.m. Eastern or thereabouts, as far as the start time is concerned. John Saponaro, Matt Ibanez. We're going to turn the page on the show here in just a moment. And like I said, going into the break, play a little bit of devil's advocate because Ibby and I have been accused on this show, during this show, because of this show, when the show's over, on Twitter, on Instagram, maybe for Ibby while he's at work, at school. I don't have to deal with that because I'm on the West Coast and nobody cares about the Mets out here the way they care where you live. But we have been accused of being David Stern's apologists, David Stern's glazers. So we're going to take the opposite approach. We're going to tell you guys what would frustrate us if the season started tomorrow, as far as the construction of the 2026 roster is concerned. But before we do that, Ibby, let's hit him with a quick word from our friends over to Independent Safes.
Absolutely, John. IndependentSafes.com. Independent safes are protecting homes and businesses with secure residential and commercial safes. Fireproof peace of mind in every corner. Visit IndependentSafes.com today for security that stands strong. And of course, it's everyone's favorite segment of the week. It is time to put somebody into a safe and throw away the key. And yes, this week I am throwing away the goddamn key because it's been too much. And I know we shouldn't be giving light to these types of things, but it's been way, way, way too much when it comes to social media as a whole. Everything that comes to this team, I think that I'm putting in a majority of the people within Mets Twitter, Mets social media, people that are posting constantly about this team. I think I'm putting in the people that are habitually online and they cook up ideas in their head. And if those ideas that they cook up in their head don't come to fruition by no one else saying said things, it's just something that they cooked up. When it doesn't happen, we scream. Or we scream about players that were signed that had no connection to the Mets. Or even when you're given reason as to why a player was not signed by the Mets, like legitimate thought process, like Will Salmon breaking things down, like just saying things on SNY about why the Mets weren't in on someone like Tatsuya Imai. Like, just it's well thought out and put out there for everyone to understand, but we still hate it and we still scream cheapness and so on and so forth. Like, I just think that people need to step away for a moment and realize what you're doing is just dumb. Realize that it's not healthy. And, when it gets to a point, I'm sure maybe this is going to be John's, I don't want to take too much from him, but when someone that has connection to the team is stepping away from social media for legitimate reasons, even though a lot of people want to poke holes in that and think that it is something more, and it very well could be something more when it comes to the toxicity of the fan base and attacking people through DM. And maybe it is that, maybe it's not. But in all actuality, when someone does something like that, that is good on social media, I think that there is some negativity that is attached to that as to why they're potentially walking away, which I think is a terrible thing to have to deal with, especially at that level every day, I'm sure, especially with how this offseason has gone. So I'm putting those people into the safe because it's not needed. It's inappropriate. It's, like I said, it's borderline sickness to this point. I understand that we create content here and we're putting things out on a weekly basis. But again, to revert back to what I've always said, why this show works, in my opinion, from a weekly standpoint, is because it doesn't allow for emotion to take over. If you do this on an everyday basis, if you're on Spaces every day, if you are doing all this stuff, then clearly it's because you are in need of something to happen. And if it doesn't happen, you act out and you lash out. And I'm sorry to go on this diatribe right now, but that's really what's been going through my mind and my frustration, which is why I've been a little bit snippy with some people on Twitter lately, because it's too much. So I'm putting those people into the safe. I'm locking it up. I'm throwing it into the river, and I'm tossing the key as far as I possibly can because it's not needed.
Quick digression. Keith saying Will Salmon just dropped a Kyle Tucker to the Mets possibility article. Keith, if you could grok for a second and summarize that in the comments, or if someone can.
I'll read while John's doing his thing. I'll read.
That's fair. Because we want to just know if there's anything substantial, and we know, listen, not just saying it because he's been a guest on this show. Will Salmon is great, good, like not good, great at his job, and he doesn't really speculate. I mean, every beat writer is going to speculate to a degree, but what I mean is he's not speculating for the sake of clicks. He's going out there and he's doing the legwork to get to his theories. So that might bump back our segment a little bit once Ibby's able to skim that article. In the meantime, Chrissy says lack of grass touching on Mets Twitter. So she agrees with you and I agree with her. Spot on take. Couple of other opportunities or options to go in the safe. Carlos Ortiz saying all these rumors can go in the safe. Just tired of the rumors. We have Stevie Mack saying, I'm putting Martino and whoever at the Mets decided to hire him in the safe. Further, taking it a little further, as Odd Villain put Martino in there as a congratulations for his promotion and because he's on the Epstein list. That will never get old. That is just a really, I don't know why. There's nothing funny, obviously, about it conceptually, but it's just, I think it's just Andy. It's because it's Andy Martino and no one likes him. And because Odd is just funny, man. Odd is just funny. And the cadence, it's good. Carson saying that outfielder from the 86 Mets that I won't say by name in the safe, even though prison is a better destination for him. If you want to know more about what's going on with that, just go ahead and check out like the TMZ Twitter account from yesterday. But you're right, Ibby. Gab has it here. Alex Cohen in the safe for protection. Ethan saying, leave Alex Cohen alone. Pantrice saying, Twitter Mets fans need to go in the safe, especially those a-holes that send vitriolic tweets to Alex Cohen. You knew, not because we talked about it, but you knew that's where I was going to go. That's where I tend to go when it comes to this segment, unless I'm having just, a ton of fun, clowning on somebody or whatever. But this is a real moment, man. It's disgusting. It's disgusting to do and say some of the things that people do online when they've created this parasocial relationship with these people that they then think that they have access to, 1, 24 hours a day, and 2, at all in some cases. I think and I tweeted as much, and I will double down on it here. I think it's sad and pathetic to tweet at Steve Cohen to begin with, unless you're doing something where you're like, hey, like at Steve Cohen, like check out my this artwork, this art piece I did of Francisco Lindor. Like that's fine. He's probably not going to see it, but maybe he will. It's all in good. It's all good natured. You want to do something like that? That's fine. Don't tweet at Steve Cohen with your half-cocked, brain-damaged trade that you're going to try to put out. Like, call WFAN. That's what it's there for. Yeah. Call Craig Carton and talk to him about it.
Yeah.
Steve Cohen's not going to read your tweet and go, oh, I never thought about that. Let's go get Fernando Tatis Jr. Like, what? It's not going to happen. So even that is just insane and embarrassing enough. But then when you take it to the next level, and it's not just about Steve and Alex Cohen, it's about Francisco and Kati Lindor. It's about any player on any team and any actor and movies. Why are you tweeting death threats at these people? Why are you tweeting you're a mother effing this piece of this? You don't even care about you. All you care about is the casino. What's wrong with you? To use Christy's words, go touch some grass, man. Like, what is this?
He's worth $22 billion. He didn't need the Mets to spend money on that to get a casino. Could we to stop with that too? That's just another dumb one.
Please. That's honestly, Gab said something. Alex Cohen deleted her Instagram to focus on the casino construction, guys. Let's face it, 2026 is a wash. Listen, guys, I am very, in my personal life, I'm not trying to take it here, but whatever. In my personal life, I'm pretty anti the existence of billionaires. But I know that my viewpoint is not going to change the world. And if I'm talking about just from a sports perspective, I want somebody, especially in an uncapped sport, the only sport I care about, I want somebody who has a lot of money that's like, I'm going to spend as much of it as possible to make this team good. It's the only thing I care about. So when people turn around, and I had people do this on Twitter to me where they were like, oh, why are you trying to protect Alex Cohen? The Cohens are billionaires and all this. It's like, listen, it doesn't mean that you don't, you come out here and you just say the most horrible, poison, vitriolic nonsense. It's disgusting. You shouldn't say that to anybody. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, people want to mask it as you are white knighting for somebody online, when in reality it's just like, no, I'm just putting it out there that you should just be a better person. Like, that's kind of what it is. Like, don't be an asshole. Like, I thought that was common knowledge, but
yeah, like,
again, it's not for some.
Just be decent. Like, and then the part about the casino, I don't like the casino. I don't think the casino is a good idea. I understand that Cohen wants the casino because he wants to make money, because that's what billionaires do. Rich people have money and they just want to make more money.
That's their hobby.
The Mets let him make money. Hopefully, he's lost money so far, but his goal to own a franchise partially is to make money off it at some point. I know he said the opposite, and that's great, but like nobody wants to lose money year over year, no matter how much money you have or whatever. But the casino is an opportunity for him to make a ton of money. And I think part of it is he realizes that when he dies, if the area is not chop shops, that people are going to go, Steve Cohen revolutionized this area, despite the fact that casinos bring in a lot of nonsense too. I don't like the casino. I think he cares about the casino, but the whole thing wasn't a ploy. He didn't buy the Mets to get a casino. He could have just built the casino. I mean, he didn't have to own the Mets to do it. So it's, to me, it's stupid. The whole thing is just, is so dumb. So that's who I'm throwing in the safe. Just people who have no, sorry about that. That was the wrong button. People who have no decency. I almost played our outro, like what we were doing. People have no decency and people have no humanity and no empathy. It's just, oh my God, dude, it's so exhausting. Anyway, you had an opportunity to skim that article from Will Salmon.
Yeah.
What did you see?
What I got, I'll read it verbatim so I don't mess anything up.
Okay. We don't do play by play.
We don't do play by play. Okay.
Single to left field by Soto. Okay.
Okay, here we go. This is the one I pulled. So we got though they are in the mix, the Mets may not stand as the favorite to land Tucker. Some within the industry question whether he would want to play in the biggest market, and some executives view him as a better personality fit elsewhere. With the Mets, however, Tucker would be the third biggest star behind Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto. The on-paper fit for the Mets is very obvious. They have a glaring hole in left field and probably should add someone for center field for that matter. The Mets could stand to be more right-handed in their lineup, but the stuff is secondary when it comes to possibly adding a player as talented as Tucker, like we've talked about on the show as well. Some public numbers back up the belief from the Mets officials that they are good. Betting odds have them over under at 86.5 wins. According to Fangraphs, projects them to carrying the sixth best WAR total. The Mets are expected to add, especially in their outfield, whether it's with Tucker or someone else. Even as constructed, though club officials like the roster, they believe their defense has improved, particularly with Marcus Semien at second base and Brett Beatty set to receive the runway at third base. They believe their pitching staff, with a full season of Nolan McLean and better health from Sean Manaea, should offer more consistency. They believe they can already surpass last year's win total of 83 wins. So it just feels like a majority of this is saying while the Mets are involved, it does come across as though what we've said before, it's more along the lines of the opportunistic route when it comes to if this makes sense, if it falls within a certain range, that they will hop in. That makes it difficult if the Dodgers are there, in my opinion, at least, doing the same thing, because I think he would opt for LA instead. But I think that it shows that, if Will's saying, hey, there is interest here, like there is talking. So like we said before, like everything that somebody coined it as the winter of Will. I think I heard that on Spaces. I would shout out whoever said that, but it's true. Like Will Salmon's been on top of everything. So when he says something, you best listen, because oftentimes, shortly after it's said, something happens. We've seen it with Polanco. We've seen it with some other things as well. So he's connected them to Bellinger. He's connected them to Tucker a little bit. So it makes sense. They need an outfielder. They know that they do. It's just going to be interesting to see which one it ends up being.
Yeah. Which is, I guess, a good enough segue into this is a good one. Wise man Will Salmon from Lazy Mary. Lazy Mary also said, right when you were done, I hated that article, which is really funny timing. It's funnier in the moment, but that's really good. Look, I think it's a good segue into this kind of devil's advocate portion of the show that we're trying to do here to close things out. You starred this earlier, and I'm just going to pull it up from Ken. Can anyone answer this? What has Stearns done ever for the Mets? You say Soto. What else? Montas, Helsley, Mullins, Siri, shit after shit after shit.
I did star that. Yeah,
you did. This is not in the spirit of what we're about to talk about, but it's just, I wanted to bring this up to present a little counterbalance because it's a little unfairly disingenuous. I mean, everybody wanted Pete Alonso back last year. He came back. Soto does count a lot. Like he weighs things in a extremely in another direction. Like you grade the Soto thing on a curve. You can't pull out some of these names and just be like, oh, that's the biggest deal. Like Montas, it was bad. It was bad when he did it. It might be the worst signing that he ever makes, but it was still just a 2-year deal. We're going to get hung up on Montas when it worked when he signed Sean Manaea the year before, and it worked when he signed Luis Severino, and it was working with Griffin Canning. Like, they traded for Siri. They traded nothing for Siri. And they went out and they got Siri so that they didn't have to pay Harrison Bader. Okay, it didn't work, but they didn't want to pay Harrison Bader. They didn't want to bring him back. They wanted something different. The thought process behind some of these is sound. The deadline deals are different. They needed a center fielder. They went out, they got Mullins. It didn't work.
They did everything they needed to do.
In hindsight, should they have gotten Bader back? Yeah, they should have kept Bader instead of Siri, and they should have gotten Bader instead of Mullins. But I understand why they didn't, and nobody even wanted fucking Harrison Bader back.
No, they just got angry when it ended up going to the Phils. That's the only reason.
Yeah, and look, he was great, but he's also a free agent right now. Nobody wants to give him money because nobody wants to pay him off the best year he's ever had.
Everything that this team needed, they went out and they addressed. Now, I wanted them to get a pitcher. I fought for the likes of Merrill Kelly. I wanted them to go after Eugenio Suarez. I thought it made sense. They didn't, but still, they checked off a lot of things that a playoff-bound team, what they thought they were going to be, needed, which was a power bullpen, which is what they wanted, and they got Rodgers to help counterbalance some of the people that they were going to potentially be facing because he had great numbers against them. And no one thought that Ryan Helsley was going to be what he was. You thought that you were getting one of the top, pitchers in the National League when it comes to bullpen. He's been one of the
top relief pitchers for his entire career. The Mets get him, and he's awful. We're complaining about
that. It's unfair. You can't do that. Like Mullins, I had said on this show, I said Cedric Mullins is a risk. He is a very up and down player. When he's down, he doesn't get up. That happening in Baltimore is one thing. That happening in New York is a completely different monster.
In a pennant race.
Like I said all of this stuff. I said that's why I was afraid of Cedric Mullins. But I understood they wanted to get another bat in the lineup to play center field.
Sorry, neither one of us wanted Cedric Mullins. We said it on this show. Cedric Mullins, no, wouldn't move me. Would not be interested in that. I said I would rather have Harrison Bader back than get Cedric Mullins. I said that, but it would have been malpractice if Jeff McNeil was playing center field.
You needed a center fielder. That's what it was. And then Robert wasn't moved, so you can't fight for that. So it's like, what do you want? It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I saw that, Truman saying how, we're defending Stearns before we potentially bury him on what we don't like. But again, man, it's about context and everything. Like you can't just assume things. Like we're going to say the things that are going to bother us. Which look, for mine at least, I think it's possible that what I'm going to say actually happens, which does worry me because while I understand the overall scope of things and what they're trying to establish, I also would be bothered if what I believe could potentially happen that would bother me. I think that's a step in the wrong direction because that would be, in my opinion, punting on 2026, which I don't think that they want to do, regardless of what Will just said in the article about them liking their team.
Just Pantry saying LMAO, Stearns completely revamped our whole minor league system. It's now one of the best in the sport, to which KRS says the Mets have one of the best farm systems and player development in the league. That is Stearns. That's all very true.
This is all, again, fans are angry because they want the surface level, what they see on the day-to-day. They're not looking into everything else when it comes to the development of everything, about wanting to have a better run organization, to be in the year 2026 with better technology and utilizing data and analytics and all the stuff, like all the taboo words for people. Like that's what the game is. And the Mets are one of the top teams when it comes to that now. They've developed their hitting at a better pace, in comparison to previous years, from last year in comparison to the rest. The pitching lab, while everyone's ripping on what's gone on up top, it's because they're developing the ones down low. It's kind of like those ups and downs that you go through as an organization when you're trying to get things proper. Like, I know you don't like it, but it is part of said process. So they've churned out pitchers at the minor league level, which now creates capital, which allows them to make deals, which they're going to do, whether you like it or not, whether it's not working within your timeline because you are bored as a baseball fan. That has nothing to do with your boredom. It has to do with doing what is right, playing the market, and seeing what comes to you. Like, that's the way. Again, it takes two to tango. But looking at everything, this team today is in a better spot from an overall health standpoint as a franchise than where they were 3 years ago. And then you're going to bring up, they won 101 games. Like, it doesn't matter. That didn't do anything.
Of baseball operations means more than shopping for every brand name that you know as a casual fan or even a diehard fan. I am a diehard baseball fan. I'm not a diehard minor league baseball fan. I've been to like 2 or 3 minor league games in my life. None of them were even Mets affiliates. They were just places that I happened to be on really nice days, and I like baseball. So, like, I'm not an aficionado as far as that's concerned, but so you could be a diehard fan, but you have to understand and not know some of this stuff, but you have to understand that, like, there is things happening that you don't know about. Not everything is a brand new car in the garage every week. That's not how it works. Also, at what point do the players get the blame for not performing? Helsley had the most saves in baseball at the deadline. Rogers had an ERA under 1. They needed a center fielder. Only 2 got moved, as you said. Matt talks Rangers. I'm sorry, Harrison Bader is not doing what he did in Philly here, especially with Eric Chavez as the hitting coach. I mean, these are all just things that you have to take under consideration. Pantrese, Mullins was supposed to be a slight upgrade over Taylor, but an upgrade nonetheless. Not Stern's fault that he fell flat on his face and embarrassed himself when he got to Queens. Paul Revere, Stearns filled every spot last year at the deadline. They didn't pan out. It's just baseball. Stop being morons. A little harsh on the morons, but I understand where you're coming from because it's just true. And to this counterpoint that people put out all the time, Johnny Owen says, what did Stearns do for Milwaukee, one of 5 franchises to never win a World Series? It's a disingenuous thing. What did he do? He drafted Woodruff, Frelick, Turang, Mitchell. He traded for Peralta and then extended Peralta when he was a nobody player. He signed Jackson Churio. He traded for and then extended Christian Yelich. He built an infrastructure that wins after he left. Yes, they have not won a World Series, but they are competitive every year despite being the smallest market in the sport and having a bottom 10 payroll near every year. They are a factory of competition, and that's the point. Mets fans, we have made the playoffs 11 times and only twice in back-to-back seasons in 63 years. Don't you want to try something else?
Johnny here saying, what have they won? Okay.
But don't you want to try something else?
But also here, who over the last decade, who has had a better opportunity to win it all? The Mets or the Brewers? The Brewers, because they've actually made it. Like, that's like this fan base is so hell-bent on the ultimate prize that they don't realize that you have to actually get there. You have to get into the dance. Like, you want that consistency. You want to get into the dance so you have an opportunity to get there. That's what needs to be established here. And that's what never has been established here, ever.
Never.
Ever. I can count on one hand the amount of times that they've been in the playoffs in my life. Come on.
It would have happened in the 80s if there was a wild card because they would have made the playoffs every year.
Right.
It was tougher back then, but that was the only time that it has ever happened where this was a team with an infrastructure that worked and succeeded. Maybe you could take the 69 to 73 run as well, right? But you have to, I understand that in order to win multiple World Series, you have to win the first one. But in order to win the first World Series, you have to get into the playoffs, which the Mets don't do historically, Ibby. They don't make the playoffs. How are you going to win a World Series if you don't make the playoffs? I don't understand where this logic comes from. People have said to me, like, I'd rather make one World Series. I'd rather just win one World Series and then I don't care about what happens after that. Like, why? Why not? Don't you want to be good? Again, only 2 times have they made the playoffs in back-to-back years. How are you going to look at me dead in the eye and say, I want to win one World Series and I don't care what happens after that? They could go on it. They could be terrible for a decade. Why would you want that? If you could build a team that's always good. You can't see the forest for the trees. What are you doing? I don't know. I don't get it. I truly don't.
But clearly it looks like some people are being upset because they think that we don't understand the difference between, calling someone out and devil's advocate and things of that nature. So let's get into that portion of what we were trying to do. Because again, there needs to be context with everything. And I think talking things through is proper. So I'll start.
Play the other side of this. Go ahead.
I'll play the other side. I'll start on my end because while I've said everything that I've said, and I believe in what Stearns is trying to do, I will say this. And I've said it before, but I'll repeat it. If we go into spring training and things bottom out and the things that people are saying in the comments do come true, the ones that want to believe that it's all, a disaster and chaos and things of that nature. If David Stearns walks up to a microphone and says to me that this is our team moving forward, we're very confident in what we have, and that doesn't have any new arms, and they come in with, we got the kids, we're confident in Nolan, we believe that Sean's going to be healthy, similar to what Will was just saying in said article. We believe in Sproat. We think Tong's going to come up, mid-season and help us after some seasoning in AAA. Like, if I get that story on top of not adding properly to the lineup that we just talked about when it comes to the outfield specifically, if you say to me, hey, Carson Bench and Tyrone Taylor are going to battle it out in center field while Austin Hayes is playing left field because he crushes lefties, and we like this, and we think the balancing between Taylor and Bench is going to be good, and blah, 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 all that stuff. Like, I'm going to come on this show, and I will be angry because that, in my opinion, is not good enough for 2026. That is not surrounding the talent that you have here with better, secondary pieces to be a winning team, to actually compete for October. Like, that would bother me. Look, am I going to scream like everyone else is screaming? No, I'll talk to you like a normal human being, but it will bother me in that sense because that's not enough. And that's not what I was told throughout this process. Even though I understood the long scope, there was still a point of emphasis when it comes to the now as well. And if that's what ends up happening, if nothing major comes to the starting rotation in terms of a 2-starter or even a 1, talking like Peralta, or signing like a Framber, like something along those lines, if that doesn't happen and there's no Tucker, there's no Belly, and I'm told to settle for Austin Hayes, or I get Luis Robert pumped up to me, I have a problem. Like, I'm not going to like that. And I guarantee you a majority of the people in here that have been on the Stearns side wouldn't like that either, because that's not good enough. And that's not a product that we're going to want to watch. So yes, if that's something that happens, I will come on this show and I will tell you that I'm upset with the offseason and how things went. And it is not what I thought was going to happen.
I can't disagree with that. To take it into a little bit of a different direction. And I kind of have more than one situation that would frustrate me, and we can dive into each one. Carson said earlier, 1+ bat, 1+ defender, 1 starter, 1 reliever. And then I'm sure Drew Smith will be back because of his can't fuck off syndrome. Leave Drew Smith out of it. Funny comment at the end from Carson. I have been saying all along, I think the Mets will get 1 bat. Oh, well, 2 bats, but 1 that's legit. So let's say 1+ bat. I don't know if they're going to get 1 necessarily plus defender, but I'd like to see the Mets get 2 pieces for the lineup, 1 legitimate and then 1 secondary piece. So for instance, Kyle Tucker and Miguel Andujar, right? A right-handed bat that could play some first, play some third, DH, play some left field. If Carson Bench is having trouble with lefties, you've got a right-handed bat, something like that. Or Cody Bellinger and Austin Hayes, right? Where like Austin Hayes is your 4th or 5th outfielder. You know, he could play all 3 spots. Cody Bellinger's your regular player. So that's what I mean by like they need an everyday piece of the lineup, and then they need a bench player. They need 2 bats. And I think they need 1 starter. I would like to get 1 reliever, and I think there are options for them to get one, whether that's Sir Anthony Dominguez or they take a flyer on a guy like Michael Kopech, which makes a lot of sense because they've got a lot of talent at the back end of the rotation. It would be great to get another, plus stuff, or even a guy, again, who would be a bounce back candidate like a Kopech. But I don't think they need the reliever. Ibby, if they don't get an everyday player for the lineup, a good counterbalance bench piece, and a starting pitcher, like you, I'm going to be upset. So if we're here on, opening day and the Mets said, hey, we signed Austin Hayes, he's our left fielder, Tyrone Taylor and Carson Benj are going to platoon in center, and we're confident that our starting pitching is going to bounce back, I would be furious because, to your point, that's not good enough. So I bring up Carson's comment to have that be the jumping off point. I think they need 2 pieces for the lineup and 1 starter. If they don't do that, I'm going to be upset. And then you know what? Ken and Truman and everybody else who's telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, then I'll be with you. Now listen, I'm not going to say Stearns needs to get fired because I think that that's too much. You have to let these guys at some point, you have to let them see a plan through. And so I'm not going to say that he needs to go, but that would be something that would frustrate me because it's just not enough.
Yeah. So again, I think people need to understand that there are this exercise, this discussion exercise is also based off of what we've been saying in terms of patience. Like patience can run out when it comes to what you're going to be watching for the next season, which is what we've been saying to allow things to play out. Because as Armand's been repeatedly saying in the chat, there is no deadline when it comes to free agency. This just drags and drags and drags. And this offseason is playing exactly the way that the offseason was. What was it, 2018? When we had, I can't remember what year it was, the year that Machado and Harper were the free agents. They got frozen out because owners didn't want to spend. And that was an extremely long and excruciating offseason because nothing was happening until those dominoes fell. And those dominoes didn't fall until February. It was brutal. So it's becoming worse and worse with the offseason when it comes to stuff like that, especially when you're in a CBA year. So it sucks. I get it. But again, we wait until we actually know what we're going to be watching. We still don't know what we're going to be watching, which again brings it back to what I was saying before. If you're habitually online and you just want constant information because we get everything at the snap of a finger now, I'm sorry, you're not going to get that because these president of baseball ops, these baseball teams, these front offices, it's a slow dragging out process because everyone's trying to get something over on someone else and they want to win a deal. And eventually things get struck, but it takes time.
Armand saying it was 2019.
19. Okay, thank you, Armand. Thank you.
And then what did Lazy Mary, this is a good one. Drew Smith is signing somewhere else and is going to be the source for Puma's next hit piece. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That one. Ibby, do you have any more? Both of us kind of spoke in broad strokes of what would frustrate us from a David Stearns perspective, what would cause us to start to criticize him. We both kind of laid out a big picture. Do you have another 1 or 2 that are more specific? I have one. If you want to think on it for a moment, I can kind of go again, but I'd rather go back and forth a little more. So if you have another one that's a player specific sort of thing, I'd love to hear it. If not, I can jump back in.
I might just defer to you for a moment just so I can think for a second because
okay.
So you want it where if they do something specifically it's going to bother me and being passed off as something that's supposed to be good like that?
Okay, no. So Frankie said earlier, at the end of the day, and I brought this up before, but I kept it starred for this example. At the end of the day, if the Mets land either Cody Bellinger or Tucker, fans should be happy regardless. Like, I would be upset if the Mets don't add either guy, even though I want Tucker more. If the Mets don't add either guy and don't get Jarren Duran or something, like if the Mets don't get an impact player in that somewhere, that's going to upset me. But I can be even more specific than that. Like, I understand what we were talking about before with regards to, what the hell was I going to say? Sorry. I understand some people saying like, yeah, there's a situation where the Mets would have to do something crazy to outbid the Dodgers on a short-term high AAV deal for Kyle Tucker. Like the Mets would have to go nuts to do that. And if Kyle Tucker wants to just go to the Dodgers, it's going to be hard to get him to not go to the Dodgers if everything is equal. I will be upset though, if his market shrinks to a certain point and he winds up on the Dodgers and not the Mets. I will be irrationally upset kind of no matter what. I would be happier if he went to the Blue Jays. And like, so the example I'll use is like a lot of people have said this about all three of the big time Japanese players. Well, the Mets could have made that offer. The Mets could have topped that offer. The Mets could have gotten involved in that market and they didn't or whatever. To me, there is enough of a pathway here with Kyle Tucker. I think the Mets need Kyle Tucker more than the Dodgers, certainly, and more than the Blue Jays do. So if I'm the Mets, I'm trying every creative way that I could to get him on my team. So if that means that you're going to try to offer him, 4 years, high AAV with an opt-out after 2, but that's where the Dodgers deal is, and you find that out because the agent's like, look, this is what the Dodgers are offering. If I'm the Mets, I'm putting that 5-year deal, that 6-year deal, that 7-year deal on the table, and I'm giving more AAV. I think he's the guy, to your point from earlier, that you can pair with Juan Soto for a long time. He's the right age. He's the right kind of hitter. He's the right temperament kind of person. He's the best all-around baseball player, and you don't know who's going to be available in terms of offense next year, the year after that, the year after that. So to me, you just have to put on a full court press to get this guy. Now, look, if the Toronto Blue Jays sweep in and they give him a 12-year deal, I understand why the Mets aren't doing that. If the Dodgers give him, I don't know, honestly, there's not a deal that the Dodgers could give him that I would be like, why didn't the Mets match that? The Dodgers give him $50 million a year for 2 years. I want the Mets to do that. The Mets need that bad. So if Kyle Tucker winds up on the Dodgers for a short-term deal where I think the Mets would have been able to say, you know what? They're offering you $45 million a year for 2 years. We're going to offer you, with the deal you said earlier, we're going to offer you $37.5 million for 7 years, and we'll give you an opt-out after 2 or 3 years. So you can test the market again when you're 31 years old. If you've been great, then test the market, opt out. That old school opt-out deal. Yeah. A lot of people are getting opt-outs now that are different, but 5 years ago, the opt-out deal was, hey, here's a 7-year deal. You get an opt-out at 3. That's what I want the Mets to do. Go make it so that Tucker can't go to the Dodgers. So that's my specific one. If he goes to the Blue Jays, I can wrap my head around it. I'll be still upset, but there are situations with the Blue Jays that I can understand. The Dodgers don't need him. The Mets need a player like that. If not him, somebody else, but I don't know who that other person is. I don't think the Blue Jays need him either, to be fair, but
I could see the Blue Jays want it because they got a taste. They want to go all in. Springer's out after next year. Gausman's out after next year. I think they have like close to $70 million coming off the books. So I think that makes sense. You can pair up a running mate with Vlad moving forward to righty lefty. Like I think that could make sense. So I'm with you on everything that you just said, and I understand it wholeheartedly. The one that I came up with is last year, the point of the what raised the ire of a lot of Mets fans is because everyone thought that they could get Garrett Crochet, but I sat here and I told you that you could not get Garrett Crochet because your farm system was not there yet, and it is now. So you have an opportunity to get something different. And I know a lot of people think that is Tarek Skubal, but I don't think he's available. And I think that is an extremely special case. Freddy Peralta, though, is one that I believe that if he is truly available, this team can go out there and finish a deal. Like if he's truly available and they want to get out from it and they want certain pieces, like you can close a deal. You should not be stopped by anyone that of the names that were mentioned. You should not be stopped in terms of being outbid, if you will, or out prospect in that sense. So I truly believe, as my kids are calling me, I truly believe that Freddy Peralta being missed on, if he goes elsewhere, like if he ends up in Atlanta, he ends up in LA, he ends up in Boston, like outside of them giving up this unbelievable player that's established, like outside of that,
Yeah.
like if it goes beyond farm pieces, like it's like an example I thought of was like if the Red Sox gave up something along the lines of Marcelo Mayer, or if they gave up Christian Campbell plus more, like guys that have this pedigree, like it's a little bit higher. Like I can understand why the Brewers opted for said player. But if we're talking just strictly farm pieces, like there's no reason why the Mets should miss out. And if they do miss out because they were unwilling to play ball at that certain level, then I have a problem and say, if not Freddy Peralta in that situation, then who?
Right.
That would bother me. That one would bother me.
Yeah. The Fringe Photo, welcome to the show, who I believe is a new commenter overall, a new subscriber, perhaps, and maybe new to the show here right now, today's show, saying becoming upset if Stearns doesn't sign an impact player still doesn't bring the impact player here. And just, if you are joining us a bit later, we are picking the moments that would upset us because Ibby and myself are both David Stearns supporters. We believe that there is a plan. We believe that they are going to execute that plan and be competitive, very competitive in 2026. So this is more of a thought exercise for the folks who are very anti-Stearns, where we would fall, when we would start to have our faith in Stearns wavered, because to this point, even my faith in Stearns has not wavered at all. I don't know about you. I don't want to speak for you in that sense, but like my faith in him as a president of baseball ops has not wavered at all. You're muted right now before you chime in.
I said, yeah, I'm fine. I'm more than relaxed, and I know others aren't, but I again, like I said this before, I don't let this team run my life, which a lot of people are letting it happen. Like when I say to people, like, you know, it's tongue in cheek, it's like, go get a hobby, like stuff like, it's just like, come on, man, like just you shouldn't be this angry. You shouldn't, like, just, you should be doing something else. Like, just allow yourself to, you know, in the end, it's about entertainment. I get that. And, you know, it is what it is. Like, just don't get so wrapped. And I know I do content for this and everything, and I talk about it, and I look at it in I think in an appropriate lens. Like, I'm not trying to scream about it. And if there's something that needs to be spoken about in a more stern, no pun, tone, like things that we just laid out, then yeah, we'll talk about it. But it shouldn't be something where everyone's losing their absolute minds and losing their shit as often as they are over every single thing. Like, come on, man, calm down.
Shout out Fringe Photo saying, I'm with you too about Stearns, and I've watched every episode. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
And thank you for commenting and being vocal. If
Thank you.
we missed a comment in the past, it's hard to get to everybody. There were just some frequent commenters and familiar faces that we're used to kind of seeing. So if you have chimed in before, thank you. And thanks for clarifying. Just wanted to make sure too, because, you know, Ibby and I are doing something we don't normally do. And so for anybody who's listening for the first time, I'd be like, what the hell's going on with this standpoint? It's totally different than it was last week or whatever the case may be. Joshua likes graham crackers saying, agreeing with me. If it comes down to a short contract, high AAV, and he picks the Dodgers, I'll be pissed with Stearns. Also agreed with me on some of the other things along the way about, like, you know, at some point you have to make the deal. So basically, like what you said about Peralta, like if it's not that guy in that spot, then when and how and what are you saving all these bullets for? Similarly, Carson said, and I know you love Jet Williams, but I think this is fair. He said, and he doesn't like Jet Williams. You like Jet Williams a lot. I'm kind of right in the middle of the spectrum. If I see a report saying Jet Williams was the deal breaker in a trade for like Scooble or Peralta, etc., that's when I'll scream, have to conserve my energy otherwise. So there is some tongue in cheek here from Carson, as there usually is.
No, but I get it.
Fair.
I get it. And I agree with it, because even though I don't think Jet is a fit for, you know, for Milwaukee, because they have, similar type of players already in starting position, young, successful, Bryce Terang, they have pieces already that make sense. But if you said to me like, hey, it would cost for Freddy Peralta because of what I was saying before about potentially being blocked and things like that. Like if it came down to, Jet and an arm as the main pieces, like what arm that is, like it might sound rich to some Mets fans, but if it was like, oh, you can get Peralta if it was Jet Williams and Jack Wenninger, like, I think I would do that deal. And I'm a Jet fan, but I think I would do that deal because I still believe that getting Peralta could also mean an avenue towards an extension and keeping him here. Like I do think that is possible. So that's why I'm willing to give up in that spot for him. But honestly, when it comes to the farm, outside of it's like I'm saying McLean, for me at least, like McLean, Benj, Tong, those three for me, like, and I'm not including like Elian Pena, like those guys too, like those far, like I'm not talking about those guys. Well, like those top three, like beyond that, I'm willing to talk ball on someone like Peralta. But of course, the higher they go, the less they're going to get on the back end because they're shooting for a higher end prospect. So, instead of giving up three guys, you might give up one guy or two guys or one guy with a lesser guy. Like that's the way I'm kind of looking at it.
Joshua likes graham crackers saying, I think the Brewers want multiple top 100 prospects for Peralta. I mean, Ibby, if you're talking about if the literal definition is applied here, multiple meaning more than one, so two, I would do two top 100 prospects for Peralta. I would. If one of them's Jet, like, again, you're taking off Carson Benj because he's untouchable for me. Technically, I believe Nolan McLean still has maintained his prospect status. So he's untouchable for me. I'm not giving them Jonah Tong because there is no control. So those three guys coming off the board immediately, I think to your point, like Jack Wenninger was either like on some lists, he was like right off the top 100 or right on the top 100.
They'll get on there this year. Yeah.
And Jet Williams is a top 100 prospect. If those are the two guys, I'm trading those two guys. I think Wenninger can be excellent from everything that I've seen from people who know more about this stuff than me. I think he has a really high upside, but you can't expect to keep Tong and McLean and Sproat and every great pitching prospect you have. And then you're like, oh, well, we'll give you Christian Scott. You're like, I don't think that's how that works. So if the answer is multiple, meaning more than one, I would give up that package you just said for Freddy Peralta. Now, again, there are limits to it because certain guys are untouchable and that's fine. And that is what it is, but that would not be the breaking point for me. Carson says, my breaking point list, signing Luis Suarez. That's a good one. If the Mets sign Luis Suarez, I would be angry. I think he's the most overrated player in baseball. He said Jet holding up a starting pitching trade, which he's already mentioned, a Brett Beatty extension, which I do think would be a bridge too far at this point. Me and Carson don't like.
Oh, it's coming, baby. It's coming.
They can't give him an extension now. That would be insane.
It's coming.
And then the final one, Mike Puma softly kissing my neck when I wake up in the morning. I think that's a breaking point for everyone. Dare I say, maybe even I don't know, maybe Mike Puma's wife. Joe Perino saying, I'm actually at the point now, when in doubt, keep the kids because I don't think we're a contender, nor do I think we will be. Way different from when I felt going into the offseason. Listen, Joe disagrees with us on a lot of stuff. He's more measured about it than because Joe knows ball than people who are just freaking out. The only thing I will say as the antithesis to this is what I said before. You just can't keep all the kids. There's too many kids. They have to trade some of them, whether that's the major league guys who have already been here or it's the guys coming up behind them. Like there's just too many. So you have to make a move at some point.
Yeah, there's going to be a clearing out process because there has to be. It's about creating that flexibility. Like something is going to happen. Everyone's anxious about it happening. It's like it has to happen because it doesn't make sense at the moment. And eventually these puzzle pieces are going to be put together.
I'm going to bring up this one from Armand while I ask you to kind of review some of the options for comment of the day. Armand said, teams and owners are freezing out the market until next month, spring training, to get players on short-term opt-out deals. I think they are. And Odd Villain said earlier, we need a signing deadline for free agency. I think a lot of people want that, but it can't work because then they're just going to squeeze more. The owners are going to squeeze the players more. Joe DeMeo mentioned that on his show. So we want to see something. I don't know if a deadline is the thing that fixes it. Ibby, I will say this. If you aren't sure about which to pick, if you want to unstar some of the comments, we can, kind of debate which one we want to pick in terms of what would be the comment of the day.
Do you have one? Like, were these ones starred? Were these ones that you hit for that? 'Cause I thought I had one, but it's not here. But I don't know.
Did I unstar one accidentally?
Maybe.
I've been unstar. We unstar stuff along the way so it doesn't get too cluttered, and I may have missed one, or done it by accident.
Like nothing. I mean, if you have one, like I will defer to you here. Like one that I laughed at that I liked.
Okay.
I thought was funny. Like I'm butchering because I don't have it here in front of me, but I think it was lazy. It might have been lazy, where it was saying how something along the lines of if it's not, it's like fashion or DF. Like it was something along the lines with Lindor and fashion and DFA. Like it was something that was very catchy and clever. Like I thought that was a good one. Nothing really hit me today. If you have something, like I will defer to you on that one.
Let me see if I could find it because that was a good one, and I did remember seeing that, and I was trying, and I kind of screwed up and unclicked it by accident. So I'll see if I can find it, but I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be so tough.
I mean, if Lazy's still in the comments, if you can just say it again, that'd be great too.
Yeah, just cheat. Just repeat your comment from earlier. We've got it. Don't worry. God damn it. Because I don't even.
There he goes. He said.
Cool.
Said for Lindor, it's designer or DFA, baby. That was it. I thought that was a good one. I did.
Designer or DFA, baby.
I mean, it's up to you. If you had one that sticks out, all right, I guess.
You know what? I'm gonna pick one too.
Okay.
Because I like this one. I like this one from Keith.
Marco screwed on the left, John will run. That's a good one too.
I like that one. So I think there are a lot of really good contenders. I don't want to get to the point where you and I pick like a different one each week.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to have just one, but yeah, that was my pick. I do like both of them. Really funny, really good. Shout out everybody. That's been a fun addition to the show. We'll try to I don't know. We'll try to do something with that. Like you said, we haven't really decided exactly where to go.
We'll figure it out.
But Ibby, final thought before we get out of here. Anything? I want to bring up these two comments because I think they make a lot of sense. Stevie Mack, wait a month and see what happens. Paul Revere, the Mets have a great future, great farm, and a rich owner. Relax, boys. I don't know if there's anything else, parting words, that you would like to leave folks with before we get out of here for the week.
Again, hopefully we just end up with something that we can actually talk about that's tangible next episode.
Be wonderful.
It would be wonderful, especially because someone's going to be joining us. We'll keep that under wraps for a little bit. We'll let people know.
Oh, we don't have to. We can tell people now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we will be having Keith Rad joining us on the show next week, and hopefully we have something that is of substantial nature that we can dive into and cover a little bit more. I'm sure he'll join us for at least the first half of the show, hopefully, and we'll have some fun. We'll have some fun with that, and yeah, I mean, all in all, again, I know people don't like that we defend the way that we do. I don't think of it as defending. I just think of it as just seeing things that are happening in front of you and looking at things in a long term and looking at the back end stuff. It's just like it's more than just one thing, and it's always going to be more than just one thing because it takes more than just the splashy sign and the thing that you want on the field in that moment. Like there's more to it than just that. And I just hope that we do have something. I do fear though, and I know this is going to happen, I do fear that the moment Kyle Tucker signs elsewhere, which I've said I still think he's going to be a Blue Jay, but the second that happens, I know it's going to be a shit show everywhere. But either way, stay with us, stay level-headed, stay measured. Love all of you. Let's go Mets.
Yes, we will have Keith Rad on the show. Obviously works in the Mets booth and also contributes on SNY. He's a guest we've been trying to get for a while. Lazy Mary saying, John, you should do mutton chops for next week's show. Maybe. And it's saying if they sign Tucker, John does chops. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. That beard will be back by next week, so he could do that.
My beard does grow very, very, very fast. Part of the reason why we're having Keith Rad on the show, though, apart from just wanting him on the show, next week is because I'm not sure if there's going to be a move. I don't know. And I'd rather get someone else's perspective than just the two of us, kind of rehashing rumor and conjecture over and over again. As much as we love to, do that and have those conversations with the live comments, it's something we look forward to every week, sincerely. But, it's also nice to get other people's opinions as far as that stuff is concerned as well. So Keith Rad from the Mets radio booth in SNY will join myself and Ibby next week. On Wednesday, I'll be back on Friday with Walk Off Whiskey, where I'll really be having whiskey this time. I not doing a dry January, just needed to take a quick moment to get away from whiskey for the
He
week.
had Bailey's in that cup. Don't let him fool you.
Lazy Mary saying, me and Keith co-champs, just like Willie Stargell and Keith Hernandez co-MVPs in 1979. Guys, if you missed any of the show, don't forget that you can watch it back on repeat, either on our Substack, on our YouTube channel, or on our Twitter page. So wherever you're watching the show right now, you can go back and watch whatever you missed. And if you can't do any of that, the show will drop later on tonight as an audio podcast on Spotify, on Apple Music, and on Amazon Music, and on Apple Podcasts. So wherever you choose to listen or watch, you'll be able to get the show in its entirety, all 2 hours plus of the show. Chrissy saying that I am a whiskey fraud. I am not. I resent that. I'm John. That's Ibby. This is Til Mets Do Us Part. See you guys next week. Peace.